God be with you. We still good? We're still here? If you've wandered off, come on back. That happens, that's all right. That's totally cool. But let's start the sermon time with this. I wrote this a couple years ago, but it's really like 5+ years ago, like pre-pandemic. I was out at an event that one of my teachers was speaking at, and he told a story about how he was out on his travels, he was speaking somewhere, and a woman came up to him after the event and said, "Oh, my family, we live in the area, and we've been making chocolate for hundreds of years. We're chocolatiers. And if you'd like, I'd love to have you over to the factory to taste some of the chocolate." And he's like, "Of course. Like, what else do you say to that?" And he talked about how he got a tour of the factory, and then at the very, very end, he got to taste the chocolate. And he was telling us at the event that as a professional communicator, he actually struggled to put the experience into words, because what he tasted was the most exquisite, transcendent, most delicious thing that he'd ever talked about, that he ever tasted. And he talked about it as if something had changed within him, as if there was a before this moment and an after this moment. And he said this to the woman kind of jokingly, saying like, "Oh my God, this is so much better than a Kit Kat." Which already made me suspicious of the story, because like, how do you beat a Kit Kat? But the woman looked at him like deadpan. And she's like, "Kit Kat? Oh no. That's mere confectionery. This is chocolate." I think that's like the sickest burn ever. Oh no, that's just mere confectionery. Like, what a put down. Confectionery. And that story stuck for some reason. And one of the reasons I think that story stuck with me is it kind of acts as a parable. It acts as a parable for not only why some of us, all of us, show up here into the church like this, but also for the one thing that we need to be really careful of as we try to follow the way of Jesus and create a life full of meaning and purpose and depth. Because I'm going to go out on a little limb here, and let me know if I'm off. But I think we all show up here, we do this whole church thing, we do the whole spirituality thing, because there is some part of us, our tradition would call it the soul or the spirit, this thing that's like right here, that knows that when it comes to life, there's more than just Kit Kats. It knows that there is this whole other world in here and out there, this whole other plane of existence that we can get in on. This thing that once we taste it, once we experience it, once we tap into it, this thing changes absolutely everything. And there becomes a before and there becomes an after. And we realize that everything before was just confectionery. And now we've entered into life. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I think that's why we show up here. I think that's what draws us in here. The writers of the Bible would call this deep calling unto deep. David Brooks, who is a New York Times writer, he calls it holy longing. This intuitive sense that there is more to life, more to us than just this. And we become most human when we seek it out, when we desire it, and we chase after it. I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why I got into this work, because I want to find that. I want to tap into that. I want to connect with it. I don't know how it works, so I come to this. Church, a community, and we seek after it together. And I think that's why you guys show up. Whether you would name it that way or not, we all feel this holy longing, this desire, this deep calling unto deep, and we want to be a part of it. But here's the thing. And this is what is so fascinating to me, and I am guilty of this on so many levels. This is something I've learned more from looking in the mirror than I've learned from looking at others, which is how you learn anything, right? What I've learned is that despite that feeling, despite that holy longing, despite us knowing there is something more, despite us being convinced on the deepest part of our beings that there is more in here and there is more out there and life will be so good to get it, despite that, we are so utterly content with Kit Kats. We are so utterly comfortable with just staying right where we are. We're totally okay with a life of confectionery. Right, anyone know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you've been there too? Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to things like life and growth, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to things like peace and justice work, we deeply know there is something more than what we've got, something better than what we've got. We know we could have so much more. And we know all we have to do, right, is like walk to a different aisle of the proverbial grocery store. But then we do this like really hilarious thing as humans. We're like, yeah, but that means I gotta like go find a guy who works here. And he's gotta be like, I don't know what aisle that's in. Like, he's gotta call someone, like, hey, where's the real life at? Oh, aisle 9. Or like, that's like all the way over there. And I don't really know what I'm looking for. I just know it's over there, but like the Kit Kat's right here. And it's king size, and it's on sale. And I know it's not gonna do the trick, but it'll kind of do the trick until it doesn't work anymore, but I can just come back. And so instead of doing the thing we know we should do, instead of doing the thing that we know will lead us into life, we're like, Kit Kat. We go for the easy, we go for the convenient, we go for the comfortable and the familiar, instead of doing the work to get the thing that we know will actually work. Who's with me? Yeah, we all do that, don't we? It's hilarious when you get a perspective on it and you see yourself doing it, you're like, oh my God, I'm doing that thing again. And you watch yourself in real time do it, even though you know you shouldn't do it. You're like, oh, I'm doing it again. Yeah, I'm completely okay with this. Because that's just how we work as humans. That's what we do. We are people who will always again and again and again bypass the hard for the easy. Like, I went to therapy for years without actually doing therapy. You can go to church your whole life without ever actually doing church. You can be in a relationship for your whole life and never actually be in a relationship. Because again and again and again, we bypass the hard and the real for what is easy and on the surface. But it's that desire, it is that longing that brings us here. And so good for you for choosing the hard thing. Good for you for choosing to go navigate the grocery store and show up here. Honestly, take a minute and just be proud of that, because you are doing something today that the majority of other people do not. Wherever they find it, they choose to do the easy thing. And you have chosen to do the hard thing. So acknowledge that. That's amazing. That's good and amazing and hard, and I'm proud of you. But I do not want us to make the mistake and think showing up is the same thing as doing the work. You've done step one of like a gazillion, but you've done it. But let's not mistake this for that. And it's with that in mind that I want to talk about the one thing that I think we can do better at as a community and as individuals, that we can do more intentionally as a community. And so today I want to talk about three things. I want to talk about my second least favorite part of the Sunday morning service. I want to talk about the number 307. And I want to talk about the question that we need to ask to keep us going to the right aisle of the grocery store. And so let's start with my second least favorite part of this. And I do not want you to take this the wrong way. You know what it is? It is, yeah, okay, stop, you're gonna ruin it. That's exactly where we're going. I'm glad that you can see it. I'm glad that all right, love it. That's hilarious.
I watched the YouTube video. We all watched it. The YouTube video where you said the exact thing.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad that you guys are with me. But yeah, we're talking about the part of the service that at the very end, it happens over here, where you guys all line up and we shake hands, and then we all leave. We're gonna talk about that. And I'm not calling it my second least favorite because I don't like you. I love that part of the service. It is the one time in the week that I actually get to connect with you, that I get to look you in the face and we actually get to have a relationship. I love it for that reason. And it's not my second least favorite because I'm introverted and that just like kills me. It's worth it. Connection is always worth it. I'm happy to do that. And it's not my second least favorite because I never know what to do as you come up. Like, are you gonna fist bump? Are you gonna handshake, high five? And I end up doing the wrong thing. And I just feel awkward and so white. It's true, man. I never know what to do. But I struggle with it. And again, I don't want you to take this the wrong way because it's not a you thing, it's not a me thing, it's a thing underneath the thing underneath the thing, is why I don't like it. But I struggle with it because of what we say over there. Because you will come up and with all sincerity and authenticity, you're like, great sermon. Or like, awesome service. The music was just great. Or like, wow, like so good, thank you. And I'm like, you're welcome, good to see you. And then you leave and I move on to what's next. And here's why I don't like it. And I'm not saying we should stop it. I'm not saying we should remove that and we should not do the thing that we do. I'm trying to point out the thing that I think is going on in here as we do that. Because I wonder if what's going on there is us choosing Kit Kats over chocolate. I wonder if what's going on in that is us choosing to skip a really hard but essential part of the work. Because this is what I think is happening. I wonder if what's going on underneath your kind words is this reluctance to ask a really tough question out of a fear of opening a door that you don't want to open. And I wonder if what's going on behind my, like, thank you, good to see you, is a reluctance to open a door and see what's there. Because I have to bet, I have to think that it's a lot easier for you, and I'm the same way, but I'm up here and you're there, for you to go, good sermon, instead of, yeah, but doesn't that mean that like this thing isn't true, and I've always held on to it as truth, and if it's not true anymore, then that means this isn't true, which means this isn't true, and suddenly my whole faith is being questioned. So good sermon, Nick, thank you. And it's a lot easier for you to go, yeah, but like the music was fine, but I just sat there the whole time and I did not feel God speak or God move. And I'm wondering if God hates me now. And I'm wondering why God doesn't speak to me, because I really need God to speak to me today. And God always speaks to me through the music, but like God did not speak to me today. God was silent, and God's not supposed to be silent. God's supposed to be love, so what do I do? And instead of opening that door, it's like, great music. And it's a lot easier to say thank you than, yeah, but my marriage is falling apart and I don't know how that applies to what actually is happening in my life. But not wanting to seem critical, not wanting to open that door, you're like, thank you, great. And me not wanting to deal with any of that because I don't know how to deal with any of that. I don't want to make it worse. I don't want to open that door. I'm like, yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming, good to see you. And so we do this, the easy thing, instead of the hard thing. I have to wonder if that is what's going on in that part of the service. And I know it's not necessarily a time and the place for that. I get that. We shouldn't have like a huge heart-to-heart surrounded by people. We can, but I'm not trying to make that happen. But I wonder if acknowledging this can open up a conversation that we probably really should have as a community of faith. Because this isn't the only place that happens, right? We spiritually bypass. We choose the easy over the good and the hard in all kinds of ways, right? Like we've all done the thing where we apologize instead of having the behavioral change that we need to do. We all do the avoidance of the conversation that we all should know we should have, so we just like buy gifts and stuff for people. We numb out with TV instead of reflecting on the day. We just ask God to deal with things instead of us dealing with things. We just keep the peace instead of actually saying the things that need to be said. Yeah, we bypass the hard for the easy in all kinds of ways. And for us here, for those of us who look to the way of Jesus to find a way of life that is good and beautiful and meaningful, here's why that is a problem. Here's why we need to do this better. And that brings us to the number 307. That is the number of questions Jesus is asked in the Bible. If you count them all up, he is asked 307 questions. And of course he is, right? Like he's a rabbi, his job is to answer questions. His job is literally to take in the questions from people and pass on his wisdom to them. That's what he does. That's what rabbis did. He answered the questions. And out of all the 307 questions that he has asked, he answers a grand total of 3. Sit with that for a moment. 307 to 3. That's quite the ratio. He does not answer 97% of the questions he is asked. 97% of the time, he replies with another question. He replies with a parable. He replies with a shrug. He replies with questioning the motivation behind the question. Or he replies with, no, wrong question. And he gives him another question to ask. 97% of the time. And when I first discovered that, I felt super weird about that. I'm like, that's weird. But then I realized that no, it's not weird. What I'm feeling is I'm really disappointed. Because that is not the Jesus I want. I want a Jesus who answers my question. I want a Jesus that is clear and straight and easy. Here, what you do, Nick, is this, and this. Here's it all laid out. Follow that and you will get life eternal. That's what I want. And I would bet you that you want that too. We want easy. But time and time and time again, 304 times again, we do not get that with Jesus. Which is really big. Which is something that we have to pay attention to. We can't afford to miss what this means. Because it points out to something really counterintuitive and tough, but also really, 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 really important. Because what that tells us is this. And if you don't remember anything else today, please remember this. Because what that tells us is the way to life, the way to depth and fullness, the way to a life that hums with reverence, the way to that thing that we are all longing for and that we're all seeking and we're trying to create, it cannot be found by bypassing the hard. It cannot be found by bypassing the hard. It is not found in certainty. It is not found in easy. It is not found in comfortable. It is not found on the surface. But the thing that we are looking for is found in and through engagement, not escape. It's found in and through questions, not answers. It is found in and through doing the hard, uncomfortable work, not the easy, convenient work. It is found in the depths, in the dark, in the deep. The life we're looking to create is found there. And if we bypass all of those things, we will never, ever, ever find it. We'll just have confectionery. We will never have chocolate. Despite what we want, and really despite what a lot of Christianity has taught, we don't get a Jesus who is easy. We get a Jesus that is really annoying. Because again and again and again, he doesn't do what we want. And instead of changing him to be something else, what if we leaned into that? What if we practiced courage? And at the end of each service, or the end of each day, or the end of each therapy session, or a book you read, or podcast you listen to, whatever it is, what if we ask a different question? And I'll ask it to you every time you leave. Maybe not directly, but you can just pretend me asking to you because it's not the time and the place. But we'll do this. You can come up and you can say, great service, like good sermon, good music. And we'll receive those compliments with gratitude. But then we're also going to say, thanks, but how'd you do? How'd you do? Did you take the thing that you need and that you want, and did you do the hard work of chasing after it? Did you bypass the easy for the hard, or did you bypass the other way? Because I know, and I know you know this, that is when you lean in, it's when you do the hard work. That's where life is found. That's where things begin to hum. That's where things begin to, they don't make sense, but they feel right. That's where you begin to tap into the wisdom that Jesus gives. That it's through the work, it's through the hard conversations, it's through going deep and into the dark that we encounter God at his fullest. That's where we meet her in all her glory and all her beauty. That's where everything begins to click. And so this time is for you. No doubt you have something going on in your life, and you're like, I don't know what to do with this, so I'm just going to go get a Kit Kat. Don't do that. Ask the question you're scared to ask. Write us an email and say, hey, I'd love to talk about this because I don't know what to do. Schedule a therapy appointment. Call a friend. But do that hard thing, knowing that hard thing is the right thing, and there's always, 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 always grace for you, and God is always with us in that. So ask yourself, how'd I do? Did I do the thing I needed to do? Knowing that is where we find life. There's some candles in the back if you'd like to go light a candle. There's some people in the back who'd love to pray with you. Spend this time knowing that God's with you and finding the courage to do the hard thing. And to that we all say, Amen.